Hi everyone and welcome back to Hally Handle HD, and today I thought I would talk about You Season 4. I am actually quite a big fan of You. I think it's a really interesting series. I'd watched the first, second and third series as they've came out, and I've just finished watching Season 4, Part 1. Um, and I'm really liking this take that we've got. Um, like sort of Joe becomes the hunted and the hunter, the hunted rather than the hunter, and a few other things. So I just wanted to sort of break down a little bit about what we've seen, give my overall thoughts. I've also got a few notes here, so I'm just going to go through those and just really talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and so on. So let's get into it. One thing I actually really did enjoy was the sort of Hercule Poirot sort of thing we've got going on with the sort of murder mystery, the who done it, and Joe trying to work out, who the key um, mastermind is behind the murders and so on. I really like that. I really like how we've got to sort of place together the dots and really think about who's who, especially when he's getting these like texts on the sort of Evanescence app thing. So it's like the texts sort of disappear after a few, after you read them. I really like that. I really like how we see Joel in a vulnerable state. That's something that we've not seen very much throughout the whole series. The first series, the first season is very. We see a lot of individualistic sort of motives. We see him in a really, it's really all him. First season, second season, we get a little bit different flavor, and then the introduction of love and that story arc sort of in the third season. So the fact that we're seeing how other characters are as well, especially in this season, like we're not just getting Joe's perspective on things, we're also getting like other characters. I really like that. Um, this gives it a little bit different sort of POV on things, and we also know that Joe, like we know what Joe is. We know specifically, Joe's he's very like I mean I think by all standards he's a bit of a psychopath. Like he contradicts himself all the time. He thinks he's a good guy, but he's really not. And I think the writers have done something really good here. They've not just like dragged that out. So first season, yeah, we know what he's like. Second season, yeah, we know what he's like. It's not like we got so far down the line and we're still seeing the same thing over and over again. Like we are getting this sort of other side of things. Like he's on the it's like the shoes on the other foot sort of thing. So I really like that about season 4. Um, so I've what else was it? Yeah, so like just the development beyond Joe is really what I want to cover with that one. I also really liked no, I didn't actually like this. I didn't like the fact that we saw like a little bit of what happened with Marianne after he left, after he sort of blew himself up in the the last season there, and then he came to France to find Marianne. I thought that we were going to see a lot more France. I made the joke. I made a joke privately, not on YouTube or anything, but I thought it'd be quite funny. If any of you guys are fans of Emily in Paris, don't know if you guys ever watched that. Probably not. But the, the shows are happening sort of at the same time, and I thought that would have been really cool if there was a little crossover, or if we saw something in the background with Emily in Paris. Cause I'm all up to date with that, but I'm not going to do a review on that because that's not something I wanted to do a review on. I just watched it because I watched the first season and I have to keep watching. But no, but You is something that's it's entirely different. Another thing I really like about You is the narrative in Joe's head. Like everything he does, he explains it through a monologue and so on, and it reminds me a little bit of Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot, different league, completely different league to You. It's in a completely different. It's very much the opposite of what we're seeing, but with Joe and with Elliot from Mr. Robot, we do see a disturbed individual um, going through their paces, different motives, different goals, but like the inner monologue, like obviously Elliot talks to us as a viewer, whereas Joel talks to whoever his obsession is lying with currently. But I do like that sort of, not the exact same thing, but in a monologue sort of thing. The characters I've actually really enjoyed. Um, I think her name's Kate, is it? The sort of main secondary character to this. She's been pretty alright. I don't really. I mean, I get why she's as cold and awful to Joel, but at the same time, I think it feels a little bit pushed on. There's a lot of characters in this where you just want to hate them, and I completely understand why, because they're not they're not good people, and that's fine. And we want to hate the characters. If we hate the characters, if we don't like the characters, then that shows that the actors have done a good job. Um, so good and bad points with that. I think that the bad points only come from that sort of general disdain for the characters we're not supposed to like anyway, which means that the characters that are being portrayed, or the actors that have portrayed the characters, have done a good job. So props to them on that. Good, good, good actor. My favourite of all of them, I think, must be Simon. I think that was his name, or was it Simon Sue? The painter. I think that was his name. Might be wrong. He was really funny. I like this sort of like I'm better than you attitude. Like he didn't hide it. Like, oh, we'll come back with my friends are dead and all that. And for a long time, Joel thought he was the main evil guy behind the cat, and then obviously he was dispatched in the episode 3. Um, I liked him, and I also liked the Roland guy. Rolled, I think that was what it's called. Roald Dahl, sort of somewhere name. He was like he painted the picture of a aristocratical, high class Englishman, uh, with his shotgun and all that sort of stuff. So I really like that. Um, but yeah, so there was a lot of good points. I'm really interested to see where they're going to take this for for part two, season four, part two. I mean, we know. I don't want to spoil it, but we know who the main guy is. The main instigator, the main person is now, because obviously, see, episode 5, we got the big reveal, or episode 4 to episode 5, we got the big reveal, and that's fine. But how are they going to put this going forward? They've taken a very, very interesting turn with this, because Joel's always been in control. Joel has been the man. Like we know this. Season 1, season 2, he is like the master of his own world. Whatever happens, he creates. Like he has his illusions, his delusions. The fact that he thinks that he knows exactly what's going to go happen every single time. Just that's how it sort of spread out for the first 3 seasons. But this for like, season 4, completely different. And like I said at the start of the video, Hercule Poirot, like getting everyone in a room, who is the main culprit, who's the criminal, who's the murderer, all that sort of stuff. It does take a completely different turn. And I did see, and I've put this down on my notes here, that there was a lot of backlash online. People saying, "Oh, I don't like this. Oh, I don't understand why Joe is doing what he's doing," so on and so forth. And I kind of understand why a lot of people would be maybe upset about this if they're very, very like attuned to the original format of the show. Like Joe is the main guy. That's it. Like he controls reality. Whatever happens, happens, and he'll get away with it somehow. But in this season, he's been very vulnerable. He's not been at the top of his game. He's very, very shaken from the previous happenings from the before seasons, and now he's sort of trying to live a very quiet life, a very like this pretense that he's some sort of professor. You're trying to pass it off. And the student, one of his students, Nadia, I really, I liked her, like sort of constantly sort of getting at him a little bit. For a long time I thought she was going to be the main villain. The sort of whoever Joel was had to come up against, but it wasn't. But yeah, so overall, I can see why there was a lot of hate or not hate, but sort of backlash in online if people aren't used to this sort of writing. Feels a very British. It's a very British sort of feel to it. Like it did have a lot of a lot of American sort of themes to it. Start of the seasons, first season, second, whatever. But this definitely has a more of a European flavor to it. I don't know if there's been writers or if there's a director that that's putting a little bit extra sauce on it. Not entirely sure, but I have enjoyed it. I really have, and I think that Penn Badgley is an amazing actor. I mean, I seen I know him from Gossip Girl, and if you've seen Gossip Girl, you know. But it's not a bad thing, and honestly, like I think that however this goes, I'm pretty certain Joe is gonna maybe finally meet his match. I think we've got to that stage now where maybe there's someone that's just a little bit more nutter than him, and that is a really hard thing to come by. It really is. So I'm all for it. I cannot wait for part two. I'm honestly, I'm so pumped. I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. Um, just purely because it's derailed a little bit from the original, the original sort of framework, but at the same time they've got to do that to keep it interesting, keep it fresh. A little bit stagnant because it's a trope that we've seen so many times with Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot, and they don't even hide it. It's in plain sight. Joe's is his professor sort of situation, and he's trying to show off that he can be, he's sort of the murder mystery sort of detective and all that sort of stuff. So a little bit of like not a big fan of that part, but I understand that they need to keep creating and they need to be a bit more imaginative with their storyline. Because if it was going to be another season of just him talking like this, I'm going to stalk a girl, I'm going to go and chase her, I'm going to kill a person because what I mean. It gets a little bit boring. It's very unique, but it gets a little bit boring. So we've got a new thing happening. And I am here for it. I'm enjoying it, and I'm just going to double check my notes to make sure I haven't missed anything. Let's see. Yep. Nope. All fine. All fine. Yep. I've covered everything. I just want to know what happens with Marianne. That's good. That's the last thing I wrote there. Just what we're going to see more of her in the second series. I very much hope so because there's a lot of stuff there that we need to tie up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that one, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers, guys.